Also overnight, we've received footage of a grass fire spreading along I-12 west of Covington near Robert, Louisiana. On your screen now, the fire scorches the outside grass siding the highway, and the trail of flames also seeped into the wooded trees as multiple fire department trucks stationed the area attempting to control the flames. As of now, we have not heard anything back. We have not received any details.